tonight with me, as always, or together again, I should say, is the one and only Chris Leroy. Got a pretty full show for tonight. I think we're going to be talking a little bit of addressing the big news, I should say, the Fernando Tatis and his 80-game suspension, the BBCE scam, or BBCE is a scam, and the Bowman Chrome news. So, Chris, do you have a preference of what you want to lead us off with?
Why don't you start off with Tatis? Tell me what you think, and we'll go back and forth a little bit.
Sure. So interesting. Obviously people heard the news that Tatis got popped for pissed hot for performance-enhancing drugs, steroid, what's the name of it? Clostebol or something like that.
Colostomy bag?
And it's interesting because something like that, colostomy bag, yeah. Well, no, what's interesting, what's funny about it, or interesting about it, I should say, funny in an interesting way, not funny in a hilarious way, is that this particular steroid, when I looked into it, it's not really a very potent steroid. And what I mean by that is there's other stuff that's out there that will do the job a lot better in terms of building muscle than this particular steroid. And I heard the excuse, when guys get popped, well, I didn't know what I was taking. It might have been a supplement, which, there's some truth to that. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of these, supplements they get, even at like a GNC, they're not regulated by the FDA. Like no one's testing them or checking them. So sometimes stuff can get in them. And also, especially if you're buying supplements from a foreign country, those are certainly not regulated either. But his excuse I thought was kind of interesting because I think he said he got ringworm.
Yeah, that's what he said.
Yeah. So this particular steroid, steroid, it is found in some skin creams, I'll say, over the counter in other countries. It's not really used to treat ringworm. That being said, like I said earlier, it's not really that potent of a steroid. So if you're going to get caught for something, the joke I would tell people is you might as well make it worth your while and use something that actually works a little bit better.
Use that shit McGuire and Conseco were using.
Yeah, whatever it was, like the Deca or the Boli or whatever it was. But this one in particular, like I said, it's just not a very powerful steroid. So ultimately, I guess the big question people have had is, how this affect his market. And I think from my perspective, I think it's weird. Maybe I'm more forgiving, or I'm one of the more permissive types, I guess. I don't know. But I feel like in 10 years from now, or even 5 years from now, if Tatis keeps doing what he's doing and he keeps his nose clean, his market's going to rebound. And I don't even think we've seen that. We've seen a fall in it. But if you're looking to buy, now not necessarily a bad time to buy if you want to buy. I think in general, people can be pretty forgiving. I think that, maybe not necessarily the media, for people like when it comes to the Bonzes and Clemens and Sosas of the world. But I think that fans tend to be pretty forgiving of players. And if he shows two things, I think one is that he doesn't get in trouble for steroids again. But the more important thing is, can he stay healthy? Because this is, prior to him even getting popped, he missed the entire season because I think he fractured his wrist in an off-season motorcycle accident. There's that, which kind of speaks to a maturity level that just isn't quite there yet, but you hope it's there now. So personally, I feel like, honestly, like I think this is not the end of the world. It's really not a huge deal to me. It's like, to me, it's the equivalent of getting caught, driving 165. But I do think that the market will eventually rebound. And like I said, obviously if he gets popped again, then this is signs of a bigger problem. But I think ultimately he'll probably be just.
My question is, how the fuck are you getting ringworm at 23 years old? Number one, were you outside running around in puddles or something? That's my biggest, like, ringworm. Bro, I haven't had ringworm since I was like 7 years old. Like in jiu-jitsu, it was real prevalent because you know, it's very common in jiu-jitsu when I used to practice jiu-jitsu. But I don't know. It seems I want to believe the guy, and I know there's been a lot of cases of MMA fighters in particular where they use these places that make these supplements, say they're they're making creatine. It's a lot of these places make multiple types of supplements. So if they have this big vat that they're mixing creatine powder in, maybe 3 days before that they're mixing something that's a banned substance in it They don't clean it all the way out. So when they make the creatine powder, there's trace amounts of this whatever banned substance.
Yeah.
So, I mean, who knows? I guess it technically is possible for something like that to happen. But my thing with Tatis is just like, bro, come on, man. He reminds me so much of Zion. It's just like you got this guy where you're just so excited about, he's going to come out and just fucking tear it up. And then it's just like another roadblock, another roadblock, another roadblock, another roadblock. This guy cannot get out of his own fucking way, man. And it's just a couple people asked me what's my thought. And I agree with you on Tatis. I think if you're patient, it's a perfect opportunity for Tatis, because it seems like in this game, in order for cards to skyrocket, there has to be prospect hype. There has to be Bowman hype. And Tatis has that. He had the people going crazy, spending crazy amounts of money on his first Bowman stuff. He had the people going crazy, spending crazy amounts of money on his flagship stuff. So a lot of those guys got caught holding the bag because of all these roadblocks. Well, I don't think if a guy's 10 or 20 grand into Tatis, why would you sell right now and just take a bath when it's not like the guy got caught with weed in Russia and is going to fucking prison for 8 years? He got suspended for 80 games. Yeah, he's going to miss half of next season, but that's basically like a normal season for Tatis at this point. At best case scenario, you're going to get 50 games a season out of the guy. So why not just hold on to what you got? Wait till he comes back. I'm hoping he has the shoulder surgery. I hope they utilize this and just get that problem out of the way, because if they don't, he's going to come back. He's going to swing. He's going to dislocate his shoulder again or whatever the fuck's wrong with his shoulder. And then we're going to be having the same exact conversation a year from now.
Mm-hmm. I think it is. Yeah, the shoulder, I think, is a labrum tear. I'm not sure about that. I'll have to go back and check. But I agree with you. I think what you're seeing a lot now is of people being, for lack of a better term, responding emotionally to what happened and saying, "Oh, screw this guy. He's a cheater. I don't want him anymore." And then, as a result, they're short selling what they have, which is silly. Yeah, which is silly. It's just like, like the thing I like to say is the Hall of Fame in baseball, especially, is filled with cheaters. You go back and look in like the 60s and 70s, everyone was doing greenies or amphetamine like that. They were chewing them like Tic Tacs in the dugout between the bats for crying.
Of course.
So yeah. I mean, I think it's just that sometimes people get a bit sanctimonious about it. So I think that there's like that knee jerk reaction of like, oh, which I think is a mistake, like you said, especially if you're heavily invested in him. But like like I said, the bigger issue that you brought up and that I sort of addressed too is, what's the next roadblock going to be? And I think that calling him the Zion of baseball is a great analogy, because that seems like that's what it is. Like every time, like you get these like these hints of the talent. Mm-hmm. You get this taste of what he's capable of doing, which sounds really dirty. I didn't mean it to, but you get this hint of what he's capable of doing. And like last season, I think he played in like two-thirds of the games and still hit 30 home runs and nearly drove in 100 RBIs, and it's insane. Like the talent is just through the roof. So you hope that even if you get like 140 games out of him, which I think is reasonable nowadays, you're still going to see hopefully those massive numbers. Another question I feel like I've gotten to, and someone else brought up, was like, well, look, like, because I brought up the fact that the steroid that he got popped for, it's an older steroid. It's been, it was invented in the 60s, I believe, by the West Germans. They used it as part of their doping program when they were trying to, dominate the Olympics. But I said, oh, well, how can we trust anything he's gotten before that? I said, honestly, I don't know if he was taking anything before that. I do know that if he was taking this, he probably would have been caught a lot sooner, because it's not the type of thing that they're not aware of. It's not like it's this brand new steroid that they couldn't test for.
Right.
So that's why I don't necessarily know if I believe taking. I like, you don't know that. Like I tell people this when it comes to a steroid test, the test doesn't prove intent. It proves whether it was there if it wasn't there.
Yeah.
It's not going to tell you if you did it on purpose. It's not going to tell you that you did it to recover. It's not going to tell you that it was an accident. It's not going to tell you there was a treat ringworm. Is it there or is it not there? That's all the science can tell you, for better or for worse, or for good or bad or whatever. But so I just tend to think that probably if he was doing something like this beforehand, I think he would have gotten caught for it a bit sooner, unless they were, unless this is the third time he got caught in Major League Baseball, just finally, unless there's some conspiracy out there and they only catch what they want to catch or whatever. You want to believe that QAnon baseball stuff or conspiracy stuff, I should say. But otherwise, I think he probably would have got caught a lot sooner. So I tend to trust more the fact that the numbers he put up even before getting caught were potentially more real and more capable of what he's doing. Or more, yeah.
I say, I'm in the camp. These guys go through a grueling schedule. And from what I understand, I mean, you wouldn't know this by looking at me. I mean, you would think I use steroids, obviously. But I don't know a whole lot about steroids. But from what I understand about them, is they make your balls small. No, what I understand about
that's true. That's true. That's true. But go on.
Is they help you recover, right? That's why people take them. Is not necessarily for the gains; it's for recovery.
So, sort of. And I had a feeling this was going to come up. And I think the best way to explain it from a medical standpoint is there's certain things you can take that will help you recover. Like things I think HGH is a little bit better. And I'm no expert, by the way. I just have more of a medical background than the average person. But it's more about your ability to maintain. I think when they say recovery, they don't necessarily mean like, oh, I had an injury, like I tore a shoulder muscle or whatever, I tore a labrum, and in order to speed up the healing, I'm recovering fast. What it does is steroids build your muscles. So what essentially ends up happening is that over the course of a year, if you start to lose muscle mass or your muscle starts to break down or whatever it is, it's helping you maintain that muscle mass that you have to keep that strength up. But if you're expecting that, like, you break a leg and you're going to take some anabolic steroids, it's going to heal it faster. That's not the way it works. The best analogy I can come up with is like, would you plug a hole in the wall with a light bulb? No, I mean, that's no. Like, just because it happens to be something that you find in a house doesn't mean that it does the same thing. So I think that when they talk about like the whole recovery aspect of it, it's more about like, okay, it's a 162 game season. How can I maintain my strength? How can I stay strong throughout the whole season? As opposed to like, oh, I've got like an injury or whatever. Oh, like I strained my calf. Let me just, inject something into my leg and suddenly it's going to recover. That's not how it works. So I think that's important to keep in mind in terms of what they mean by recovery. And I think that's why you saw guys like, remember, I think Bartolo Colon got popped for something a while back. Like I remember when he was playing, he got popped for steroids. And if he's taking steroids, whatever, they probably should have gotten his money. Yeah, he probably should have gotten his money back. But still, that's where the recovery aspect of it comes in. I think people just assume it's like, oh, you got hurt, you took it to like recover faster. Again, I'm not an expert, so I'm always cautious saying this, but that's more or less bullshit because it's not going to necessarily speed up the healing process per se. At least anabolic steroids won't. HGH probably does a little bit, might have a little more of an effect on that. But it is going to at least allow you to stay at the level you're staying at or to maintain that muscle mass to keep your strength up throughout the course of 162 game season. I mean, not for nothing. I mean, baseball, like if you go back, 50, 60 years, these guys had other, like even, I don't know, late 70s, these guys weren't getting paid millions of dollars. They had jobs in the off season, So now baseball is a full-time job. I mean, it's like you have to be training all year round or else you're not going to be able to maintain that. And the human body, like that's, I mean, and don't get me wrong, these guys are compensated fairly, but that's a lot of that's a lot of strain on your body.
Well, here's the way I look at it. Baseball to me is in deep shit, and it seems like, and somebody said this to me, and it did not dawn on me. I think it was a guy I work with, but he said his kids have zero. Like when I was younger, I'm 44 years old. When I was in my 7, 8, 9 to all the way in my teenage years, all I wanted to do was play baseball. That was it. That's all just fucking lived for baseball. All I wanted to do was play baseball. All I wanted to do was play catch. If we weren't out playing a game, let's baseball. Nowadays, it seems like the younger generation is more into soccer and, gay shit like lacrosse and, whatever the other rich kids play.
Be careful. Yeah, Chris, sorry, I got to interrupt you. You can't say shit like that. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
You got to be careful about that. That's okay. Just be careful. Just be careful about that, especially if we're on Facebook. You can't say shit like that.
Sissy stuff.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean, but like.
Can I say sissy stuff?
That's fine, but just don't use that word in particular. Thank you.
All right, sissy stuff. Sorry. it turns out that these kids nowadays, they're not really interested in playing baseball. So you have this, obviously there's still lots of kids playing baseball, but it's not like it was. So when
Right.
we have these younger, just generational talent, face of the game type players like Tatis, Acuna, these guys that everybody gets excited for, that they actually want to go turn on the TV and watch this guy play, and then they're just constantly hurt. You look at the beginning of this year, it's just like, oh my God, we're about to see the best year of baseball, and I can't tell you how long. All these rookies got called up, and then it's just inevitable. One after another, after another, after another, after another. They just drop like flies. And it's like, I'm in the camp. Let them fucking use if who gives a shit? You still have to be talent. Barry Bonds still put that bat on the ball, steroids or not. And I know this is a very fine line where, people are on one side of the camp or the other, but it's just like, they have to do something to get these, either play 80 games a year, or if you're going to play 162 games a year, you better start recruiting robots, because these guys, their bodies are breaking down, and it's obvious. It's a grueling season, and they better fucking figure it. And look, out of all the sports, you would think baseball would be one of the, less injury prone sports out of all of them.
I think what people feel that don't really realize when it comes to baseball in terms of injuries is that when you are asked to perform, on the one hand, you're right, like baseball, because it's not like really a contact sport. But the flip side of that is, football, when you're playing at game speed, it's once a week. Or even basketball is a little bit more spread out too. Like you at least have a certain amount of time. Whereas baseball, you're basically like sometimes you're playing 14, 15, 16, if you have a rain out or not a rain out, sometimes you're playing 10, 12, 14 games in a row. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So, on the one hand, I agree with you. I think they need to start building in more off days. I think that's one solution. Or, I think the reason why they're never going to cut back on the games is because I think ownership would use that as a way to justify lowering salaries, because they're losing gate money and blah, 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 even though they're making the majority of their money off of TV. But you're right. It is concerning when you see, especially I did some research on like Tommy John surgery. We start to see the alarming rise in Major League Baseball players, obviously in youth athletes, it's a problem, but in Major League Baseball players in particular, for pitchers, it's like something like 25% of pitchers will undergo ligament replacement surgery at least once in their career.
That seems low.
And some guys have done it multiple times. Well, I mean, from a medical standpoint, it's higher than you want it to be. Like if someone's having that type of injury, you want it to be in like 5%, but it totally seems lower. It's just that I think and that's including minor leaguers. It's just that by the time they get to the majors, I think there's definitely more of a prevalence. And the problem is they don't really know, other than overuse, there really isn't a strong indicator for why you need to have why the ligament gets damaged like that. But ultimately, I think the reason why you do see these many injuries is because of how long the season is and how grueling it can be at some time too. So I'm not sure what the solution is to that problem. I think, like you said, cutting back the number of games, finding, I don't know what it is, some type of whatever it is, or at least building in, 1 day a week where they have an off day.
They need to figure out a miracle drug and not put it on the fucking ban list is what they need to
ban list, yeah. Well, that's another thing too, is, they don't, for some of these drugs, the reason why, like going back to like the Balco situation, the reason why some of those drugs were so controversial, or I don't know if controversial is the word, but were so attention grabbing, I guess, is because they couldn't test for them. There's only and this again, this might have changed recently, so don't hold this, don't quote me on this, as gospel. But oftentimes, in order for you to test for a substance, you need to know what that substance is. Like there's certain things you can do. For example, if your testosterone levels are high, you can check for that. But if you don't know what that drug is you're looking for, you're not going to be able to find it. So things like the cream and the clear or whatever, allegedly Barry Bonds is using, for a long time, they didn't know what that was, so you couldn't check for it. So who knows? Maybe there is something out there that's been developed that could be considered a performance enhancer that they could take and allow them to stay healthy.
Fernando Tatis is a multimillionaire. How does my buddy Rob down the street have a Wizinator and fucking Fernando Tatis doesn't? I mean,
well, see, the issue. it goes beyond just the Wizinator. You have to. They can bust you for that too. Someone got caught to it using a Wizinator, I think.
Fernando, hit me up. I'll sell you my piss.
Well, if you want to go full whatever, like, and from my perspective, you want to take the money into account, like, what the hell is he doing messing around with, like, for lack of a better term, kind of a shitty steroid? Like, a lot of better options out there.
Maybe he thought it was so low, that it was such a mild steroid that they'd let him back. Do you think they busted him a couple times before this? I mean, is that, I know they went to the no nonsense rule after all this shit, but so is it one time, no questions asked, that's it? So
for Major League Baseball, so again, this is not something I necessarily believe, but there are people out there that think, oh, they catch what they want to catch, whatever. Because when you think about it, as far as I know, Major League Baseball finds out at the same time as the player, if that makes sense. And if you think about it from like a marketing standpoint, for example, or like a money standpoint, in the short term, MLB stands to lose a lot of money, and the Padres stand to lose a lot of money if Tatis is in the lineup, et cetera, et cetera. So there's some people that believe in that. I don't know. Like the conspiratorial side of me that enjoys conspiracy theories.
It makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Like it makes sense. It's not far-fetched. I just don't know. I can't prove it. So if I can't prove it, I'm not going to say it's the case. I will say this, and I'm going to be very careful about the words I choose to use now. So, and unfortunately, I can't really provide any more details on this. So, obviously, before you sign a new contract, whether it's for arbitration or if you're a free agent, you have to do a physical. And there that will, not companies, but the teams and the players will have doctors do a physical and review the test results, whatever. And as part of these, I believe they do blood draws, they do check urine, they do everything to make sure the player is healthy. How do I want to put this? Like I said, I don't want to get anybody into trouble or violate anything like that, but I'll just say this. Oftentimes teams are aware of a lot more than they necessarily let on, if that makes sense. Or there's a possibility that they could be getting information from these test results they might not necessarily be sharing with anybody other than the player. That's a possibility too.
Yeah, sure.
So I'll let people kind of fill in the blanks as they want to, but and also to keep in mind, there's a lot of different things that can be classified as a performance enhancer. Like steroids aren't the only way to improve your physical performance. There's like the stuff that Lance Armstrong got popped for, things like that aren't necessarily limited to competitive cycling that other sports have access to. So keep that in mind. And they do check for those things. Don't get me wrong; those are still checked for. But I'm sure as part of these physicals or other processes, things might come up, and if they don't feel like sharing them, they don't have to. So or something to that extent. But so just I would say keep that thought in mind, or not, or fill in the blanks as you will with that. So I wouldn't be completely surprised if perhaps I don't know, the Padres might have been aware that he might have been failing an upcoming test or something like that. Like that disappointment was that they said, hey, cut the shit before you get popped or whatever, or maybe not, maybe they had no idea.
It's just a shame, man. It really is.
It is because he's such a talented guy, and I think this is unfortunate. And he, like I said, it could have. We don't know. Like I said, you can't prove intent. You can't prove, like, the science cannot prove whether he knew what he was doing or he didn't. And I think at this point in time, no one gives the player the benefit of the doubt, which is fine. Which is understandable, but he obviously, you have to be, especially as an athlete, like if you do want to play it clean, if you don't want to be getting caught taking something you shouldn't take, or losing money. I mean, this is a huge amount of money he's costing himself too. I mean, it's half the season. I don't know if his extension's kicked in, but we're talking about, if it did, you're talking about like at least $8 to $10 million, maybe more, and that money just vanishes. So it sucks for everybody. So I guess, like I said, it's just a reminder to athletes that if you really are trying to stay on the level and like your money and don't want to miss game time,
it's in and out of your system in 3 days. Yeah. I mean, Jesus Christ, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, HGH. I'm pretty sure they still. I don't know if they do blood tests now, but I mean, something like HGH, for example. I'm not trying to give a handbook on how to cheat, by the way, here, but like I'm just that doesn't show up in urine, so you're not going to fill a urine test. I don't know if they do blood. They might. That's actually something I'm not aware of. But yeah, I mean, so just I would say, just be careful if it really was an accident. Just be very careful about what you are taking as a supplement, and especially if you're going to foreign countries, because, and this is not a knock on foreign countries, just they have different regulations. It's another thing I'd liken it to is that oftentimes, sometimes in speaking with occasionally speaking with patients, they say like, you always have to ask, are you taking any vitamins? Are you taking any supplements? Because they can, not only can they interact with medication, but sometimes people don't realize that in some of these supplements, like they said, I took this like this powder that's supposed to be like ginseng or whatever, or wherever it was, or from like and it cured my headache. But what they don't realize is someone crushed up an Advil and put it in there, or they crushed up an aspirin and put it in there. So you're actually it has nothing to do with that teaspoon of oregano you just ate. It has to do with the fact that someone mixed it something like aspirin or Tylenol or whatever. So you have to keep those things in mind. You just have to be careful what you're doing. And it's unfortunate in his case that he got caught. It's unfortunate that, I think, especially with the Padres making a big postseason push. I mean, how awesome would it have been to watch him and Soto and Machado in that lineup in the postseason? It would have been incredible. So as fans, we kind of get deprived of that too.
All right, well, let's move on to the BBCE thing. So anybody who doesn't know this by now, it's kind of wild. At the National, Whatnot was a big presence at the National, and they were giving away a sealed box of 86-87 Fleer basketball, Michael Jordan's rookie year, and it was a BBCE wrapped box of Fleer. And they had this thing on display. You could see it, and I forget what they did, but they actually wound up doing like a break with it. A couple of the big time Whatnot guys were the ones that actually, you can find these videos on YouTube. But so the problem is, and I think people who think they are aficionados of this game forget that there are guys that are into this so many more levels above than you will ever be in your life, to the point to where you got to remember, where there's money to be made, people are going to invest a lot of time and effort into figuring out how to game the system. So, for example, there's guys out there to know if they were to pick up an 86-87 Fleer, just single pack of basketball cards, they could look at the front card on the back, or the front card, and they could look at the back card, and they can tell if there's going to be a Michael Jordan in that pack by the collation. The collation repeats in 86-87 Fleer. So it looks like to me that their machine was set up with two hoppers, basically. So they were feeding in one card, and just over and over again. And that's the way the cards would, they would descend in order in a very systematic way. So a guy who knows 86-87 Fleer could look at the top or the back card and tell if there's a Jordan in there. The other thing that these people, they know exactly the collation of every pack the way it's supposed to be. They know once this card hits, they could tell you what the next card's going to be. They could tell you what the next card's going to be, and so on and so forth. So if you find some 86-87 Fleer basketball and you carefully open up all the packs and you put them all on the table, you pick out the Michael Jordans, you replace them with some other cards, you put them back in there, and you didn't put them back exactly the way that you took them out, and then you tried to sell this box to somebody else, maybe they didn't notice that you opened the packs, or in this case, a company called BBCE that should not be in business, by the way, after this, apparently sealed this as an authentic box. They open it live on camera, and all of those aficionados of 86-87 Fleer started jumping and blowing their heads off, going, the cards were coming out basically in alphabetical order. It's like, I forget what podcast I was watching, and he made sense. It's almost like somebody put together a team set or a full set, maybe had it alphabetized, and maybe they, because they do a lot of low grade 86-87 Fleer sets. So maybe this guy cracked them out and then just, put them in the packs and resealed them or whatever. So the box was resealed or wrapped by BBCE. Whatnot bought it for a lot of money, over $100,000. They wound up breaking it live, and as they're breaking this thing, these cards are coming out in sequential, alphabetical order, whatever. They wound up hitting 3 Jordans, but they went and graded them immediately, and they all came back PSA 6s. So I think what, obviously what somebody did is somebody took 3 low-grade Jordans, put them in there to make the box authentic or whatever, because, depending on where the collation is, there'll be a pack where it shows a Michael Jordan on the front or the back. It's going to happen eventually. So the funny part is these internet sleuths, these Fleer experts started coming out and being like, yo, Whatnot, you just got duped. You just bought a fake 86, 87. Well, it was real 86, 87 Fleer, but obviously this box has been tampered with. So BBC wrapped this thing, and they did a video with the guy who brought it to him. And they have the guy from BBC on camera saying, yes, I did an inspection of your box, and I found one pack to have been tampered with. So I took that pack out. And then there was another pack that something was wrong with it. So he took that pack out. They took 2 more packs from another box, or maybe 2 loose packs, to make it a complete box, and they call it a built box. They sealed it, give it a letter of authenticity saying this is intact, but not factory sealed, but a built box of 86, 87 Fleer. So this guy thinks, look, man, if you think for 1 second, as a guy whose sole business is to authenticate wax products, that you're going to open a box of 86, 87 Fleer and find one pack that was tampered with, but all the rest of them are okay. So you're telling me a guy got a box of 86, 87 Fleer, picked up one pack and said, ooh, I'm going to open this and try to reseal it, and stop there? I mean, it's the biggest crock of shit. And for people that don't know, BBC was also involved with, the Logan Paul thing where he bought the first edition sealed case of Pokemon.
Oh, right.
So that, Logan Paul spent millions of dollars on that thing. And then the same thing, the Pokemon experts started coming out and were like, yo, that's not a real case. I don't care if BBCE wrapped it or not. That's fake. Yeah. So he flew BBC out to where he was. They put it all on video. They opened the case up, and it was filled with G.I. Joe cards. So
I remember that. Yep, the G.I. Joe thing. Yep.
So all I'm saying is, look, man, if this guy has been burnt twice now, I feel bad for him, but don't build your business around something you obviously don't have expertise in. There's guys out there that invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in boxes, bring them to BBCE to have them wrapped as an insurance policy to insure their value. And you might as well just cut that off right now and just fucking act like you never went there, because they are just toxic at this point. And he came out with a response saying, trying to defend, this was an anomalous box that, I assure you that this wasn't tampered. And, the guys who know 86, 87 Fleer are like, bro, we know what these packs are supposed to be like, and this is not an anomalous box.
That's a hell of a coincidence if that was an anomalous box.
The crazy part is, man, here's the thing. If you're Whatnot, that's, you would think they would come out and be like, look, we obviously got screwed here. We obviously led our customers on thinking they were going to have a legit shot of opening 86, 87 Fleer. They bought it off of Golden, by the way. Yeah. Ooh. So all I'm saying is,
okay,
just and the same thing that happened at the National, that some kid bought 12, 13 Prism basketball. He opened it up and it had fucking Little Mermaid cards in it or something. I mean, there are snakes out there that are very good at what they do. And it's like the old saying, if it's too good to be true, it probably is, especially in this game. And that's the other thing we're kind of new in this podcast thing, but one point I want to drive home, and you're going to hear me use the word game a lot. and I know a lot of other podcasts out there that their whole thing is the hobby. The hobby. Everybody loves each other. This is a hobby. It's the people, the greatest. Listen, this is South Africa on Shark Week. Okay, this game is filled with great whites, and you are the chum, and they want your money. They will eat you. They will screw you. There's lots of good people in this, but there's just as many bad people in this. And it just drives me crazy every podcast I listen to. Oh, it's the hobby. Oh, the hobby, the hobby, the hobby. Oh, it's all virtuous. And this is a prime example. There's so many examples out here like this. This box of 86, 87 Fleer is worth a lot of money. So somebody is going to do whatever they can to try to get that money off of that box. Mm-hmm. And they don't care if it's your last $100,000 in this virtuous world of the hobby that people like to pretend we live in. This wouldn't happen, but this happens every single day. So don't be one of these chumps. Realize the waters that you're swimming in. People will screw you in a second, and don't forget that. That's my thoughts on it.
I think that's fair. I mean, I think that's life in general. I mean, not everyone's trying to screw you, but there's enough people out there that are. And especially when you have a high-end product like this, yeah, there are a lot of people. No one's 100%. No hobby, no business, nothing is 100% virtuous. Like you want. I mean, obviously, when it comes to business, they should act with some type of ethics and be on the up and up. But you're right. But Chris is right when he says, for something like an 86 box of Fleer or something like that too, there's a lot of people out there that want to squeeze that every last penny they can out of something like that. And if they can go through and check the packs or whatever and be able to find those cards, this happening doesn't surprise me. I think what's more surprising is that busted a second time. Not busted, but I got caught with this a second time. And I think, like you said, the idea of I just checked a couple packs and now it's, what do they call it? Like a full box or a box, whatever.
A built box is what he called it.
Built box. You know what a built box is? Fill it with shit, and it's about the same thing. Because that doesn't mean anything. It's meaningless. Like a built box is meaningless. It means someone's tampered with it. So if someone's tampering with something, that means that there's a good chance that what you're looking for is not going to be in there.
Yeah.
That's just kind of the way you look at it. Like it's like what I tell people is be smart. Or one of my favorite phrases too is trust but verify. And it seems to me like the BBCE guys are just not verifying, and I think that's a huge problem. There's snakes everywhere. People are always trying to make a buck off you. So you're right. Yeah.
This game gave BBC a pass on Pokemon. It's just like, okay, it's Pokemon, right? You authenticate sports cards. Okay. It looked real. You got screwed over. You don't know Pokemon that well. Okay. But this is 86, 87 Fleer. How many 86, 87 Fleer boxes has been brought to BBCE to be authenticated? I mean, I would imagine a lot. I know several people over the last few years posting on their timeline that, hey, me and my buddy went in and bought this box of 86, 87 Fleer. We're hopping on a plane right now to BBCE to have it authenticated. You have just destroyed your reputation. It's done, over with. Mm-hmm. And I just never understood the whole. It's like the grading thing kind of falls in the same category with me. It's like I understand grading is a big part of this game, and that's kind of the way we standardize value, and it's used in a lot of ways. But I personally use it for protection. I don't really care necessarily about the grade, but it's the same kind of thing. It's like you're sending your card off to this place to a person or people you have fucking no idea who they are. You have no idea what their qualifications are. You have no idea what the process is. They won't tell you the process. The same with this, but people in this game just blindly, okay, yeah, you're PSA. Let me give you my cards, and I mean, it's mind blowing when it comes to large sums of money. How people just jump in with blind faith, going, oh, you're BBCE. Well, did you work at the manufacturing company that used to make 86, 87 Fleer? Did you work for the company that used to make '03 Topps Chrome box? Like, what are your qualifications exactly? I mean, other than seeing a lot of 86, it blows my mind. It really does.
Yeah, because like you said, it's impossible to know. And I've gotten stuff graded before. Obviously, I think all of us have at one point or another. More often than not, I think it's stuff that I've done for preservation. Sometimes it's for resale, to be honest, because it's the way to maximize value.
Of course.
But you're taking a risk. I mean, I do it with the understanding that like I'm taking a big risk here. Was the guy having a bad day? Was he grumpy, or did they get someone new? Did they get, like? It's just understand that while this is trying to bring some type of objectivity to this process, it is or objectivity to values. It is an incredibly subjective process. So and also if they won't release what they're looking for, how they do it, there's no way to verify whether there's no way to compare or verify that what they're doing is actually accurate. It's one of those the great debates in the card hobby is like, well, is a BGS 10 more than a PSA 10, or is a PSA doesn't do 9.5, so is a 9.5 the equivalent of a 10 or the equivalent of a 9 in PSA? Like, it's these debates that go back and forth, and it's frustrating, at least from my standpoint, because when you look at the grading stuff too, and I think we're getting off a little bit of a tangent, I'll circle back, but like, how many times have I had kind of quasi arguments with people when they're like, oh, well, this is only a PSA 9. It's like it's an orange auto that I have, but it's only a PSA 9. I'm like, that's still a good grade. Like, I don't know why people think that's a bad grade all of a sudden. It's kind of crazy to me, but it goes back to the BBCE thing too. Now, like I said, maybe they got to pass the Pokemon thing, but you would think that if you're getting an item or a product or whatever it is that is that much money, which, I mean, what did Logan Paul pay for it? Like $500,000? He paid something absurd for whatever.
No, it was several $1 million. Several million.
I was like, okay, a couple million, because it was the first release or whatever, where there was like the Charizard, Shadowless, all that BS. Yeah. Not BS. I mean, it's important to. I'm sorry, let me take that back. It's not BS. The Shadowless Charizard is, I think, the card you're looking for. But point being, if you're going to verify that, you better have someone that's working for you, that's an expert on Pokemon, that's an expert on what those things look like. That I mean, they were for Pokemon, but they better have known what the product was, because, like you said, that's $1 million, multi-million-dollar purchase, and especially in this industry, the only check you can have on snakes like this, in the just sort of on like a lower level, like if you're doing a Facebook transaction, is your word does mean everything. Like, you better, if Chris is running a break in retail breaks or whatever, if you don't pay up, guess what? That's your first and maybe your last retail break you're going to be in, because and you know what? Everyone else is going to find out that you don't pay either, and that's total bullshit. So, your word does actually matter, and your reputation matters. And in the case of BBCE, this happening twice, and I'm sure I don't know them. Obviously, we don't know them personally. They might be really good guys, but that kills your credibility, and that's a huge problem. Able to have credibility, or else no one's going to trust you.
That's like, bro, that's like me opening a business tomorrow saying that I am going to do safety checks on space shuttle cockpit harnesses, right? Because I've seen one before.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I've held one in my hand, so therefore I'm an expert, because I've seen them before, right? So I'm going to start a business. I'm the expert safety harness guy for the shuttle. Well, better hope those fucking people never have to use those safety harnesses, because just because I said I'm an expert doesn't mean I'm an expert. And that's basically what it is. It's like, this guy started early enough, and there's no prerequisite for expertise in this game, right? It's just if you've been around long enough, and it's like, hey, I got some 86, 87 Fleer, or I got this Michael Jordan, I can't tell if it's real or not. Well, this guy over here at BBCE has seen a lot of Michael Jordans. He could probably point you in the right direction. So he probably built his reputation somewhere along the lines. But it's amazing how everybody just put their faith in this guy or this company as the sole final say, the authenticator, without even questioning it. It's like, how many people brought him a box, or brought that company a box to get it wrapped, without going, did you work for Fleer back in the 80s? Like,
what are your credentials?
Yeah, I mean, you have some fucking electron microscope back there that NASA uses, or something. Like, what exactly is it are you doing? And the craziest part was, bro, when he kind of let go some of his secrets on that Logan Paul debacle. He,
Mhm.
he some of his reasoning that he gave him, he brought out a magnifying glass and he's like, he goes, "You see the label?" He goes, "I looked at the label very carefully and you could tell the glue at the end of the label wasn't disturbed." So it's like, bro, you don't think that some crafty motherfucker in his basement doesn't have a printer that can print this exact label and weather it and make it look old? You think
Yeah.
that you can't buy paper tape on Amazon with a stop symbol on it and weather it and make it look old? I mean, that's the
Mhm.
process? That a magnifying glass is the process? Come on, son. That shit is ridiculous.
We've all seen Catch Me If You Can. We know how that shit works. Like that was based on a real story. Like these guys,
Ugh,
like you said, if there's money to be made, it's like art forgers. If there's money, like we've all seen White Collar and
exactly.
Catch Me If You Can. It's like these guys are very very skilled. Like if they're
Very
trying to
skilled.
make a buck and if they're good enough at their job, exactly. If they're trying to make a buck and good enough at their job, they will quote unquote fool the experts, especially if there's no, I don't know what the word I'm sure for what makes you an expert. Like to
My
get a
favorite
yeah. Go ahead, sorry.
No, my favorite one, and this happens all the time on what's the name of that app? Macari, I think it is. There's a couple
Oh,
apps,
Macari,
and
yeah, Macari, yeah.
there's
Mercari,
guys that
Mercari, M-E-R, yeah, Mercari.
yeah, whatever the fuck it is. There's
Yeah,
guys
yeah,
that
yeah.
do this, and there's so many people that fall for this, man. So there's
Mm-hmm.
guys out there that will take a reprint 52 mantle. They'll round the edges. They'll put a crease in it. They'll soak it in coffee to make it look whatever they do. They make it look weathered, and then somebody will make a post on a app like Macari saying, my grandfather just died. I was going through his stuff, and I just found this card. I'm not sure if it's real or not, but does $2,500 or something like that. They get bought constantly like that because somebody's going, "Oh my God, this guy has a 52 mantle. His grandfather just died. He doesn't know what he has. He's selling it for 2,500. Even in a PSA one, that's a $10,000-$15,000 card. Fuck yeah, I'll pay $2,500 for that card." And
Yeah.
they get them, bro. Look, next time you get a chance, go. It's been years since I looked, but I used to see these posts all the time of these guys holding,
Mm-hmm.
52 Jackie Robinson, 52 Mantles, all beat up. My grandfather just died. My dad got an inheritance from his dad, and we just going through
Mm-hmm.
some stuff, and we found, bro, it is filled with shysters, filled.
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
just
because yeah,
because they have an LLC at the end of the name doesn't mean they're shysters either. By the
no,
way,
yeah, no. Well, another thing too is like you always hear of that like 1 in 1,000 person who actually doesn't know that they have a 52 mantle and sells it for stupidly
exactly.
cheap. But that's a 1 in like 10,000 or whatever 100,000 chance.
You're not going to be the
Just
guy
for
that
every
finds it. Just stop it. Yeah,
no, no. You're better off taking that money and buying $2,500 worth of lottery tickets than
exactly.
you are trying to that being a 52 mantle. So it's yeah, that's craziness. And like I said, it's not worth it to go after. Like sometimes you have to learn that lesson the hard way, but it's not. Sometimes it's not worth chasing the dragon like that. And like I said, like you said, there's enough people out there that know how to make a respectable forgery that they're going to fake. They're going to fool. The other thing about it now too is that especially with. While I think in general people have said the card market's going down, there's all those doom and gloom people like, oh, we're heading to the drunk wax era, which I don't necessarily buy. But the things like well, you're one of them. But I don't think we're going quite that bad. But I'd say, I wouldn't exactly say we're headed back to like 1995,
No,
where
no.
there, But my point is that the vintage stuff does tend to hold its value. I mean, look at that SGC mantle that was at the National that I think is already up to $6 million.
That's probably fake
So
too. I hope it is.
it could be. It could be. Who knows? I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna. I will. Who knows?
It's in an
Not who
it's
knows,
in
but
an
like you would.
SGC holder, so it's got to be real, right? It's got to be.
I mean, who knows? I would hope. Let's just say I hope it's real. I'll just say that I hope it's real. Whatever it is whatever it is. point being is that stuff will always hold its value. People trying to take advantage of that. You just have to be smart. And I think as more people learn that these things have value, and there's more people that are really talented, like I'm not a good artist, so I'm not talented in that way, they can find ways to take advantage and make money off that talent. So just, I think the advice is be smart about things. Like you said, like going back to what you said before, if it's too good to be true, probably is. If some guy's waving around what looks like a 52 mantle on Mercari or on Whatnot or on whatever app you fucking choose, guess what? Probably a fake. I don't think they went dumpster diving in the Hudson River and, found all those boxes that Topps allegedly threw in there. Chances are it's just a very good fake. So yeah, exactly. I wouldn't mess around with that. I would not mess around with.
All right, let's move on to our final subject, and I think it's going to be a reoccurring segment on Two Guys One Teambag. I think we can call it "Fuck Topps." Can we call it that?
Yeah, fuck Topps. I don't know. My only concern is it's going to get back to them and we're going to be like blacklisted. So all those times you go and get your friggin', if you thought you were hitting shitbox pitchers before, wait till they see this and they get real mad at us.
In October release of Topps Chrome and Bowman Chrome, they can lick my balls. They can blacklist me all they fucking want to. But yeah, Panini figures out a way to put out fucking Chronicles draft picks on time and every other fucking bullshit product. Wild card, bro? Give me 2 minutes. This company,
maybe the segment should be called Chris's rants.
This company, Wild Card, whoever you are, stop it, please, fucking stop. I will personally run a GoFundMe. Whatever your projected sales are for the next however many years you want to be in business, I will make it my mission to raise enough money to hit that goal so you can close your fucking businesses, so I don't have to look at a fucking Walmart shelf anymore and see it 95% filled with bullshit wild card Now they got basketball. Football wasn't bad enough. Now we got fucking wild card basketball. Just shelves full of it. And I gotta hand it to them because they fucking sweet talked their way into Walmart and Myers, and I don't know how they did it, but they somehow, some way unloaded that bullshit on Walmart and Meijer, and now they're just shelves of that garbage. Fucking black. They got mega boxes now of this bullshit. It is the biggest piece of shit. That's exactly what we need, is another unlicensed piece of fucking dog shit product that nobody's going to buy, and it's just going to sit there on the shelf and fucking rot. And by the way, that shit just takes up all of the shelves. So now these new vendors that come out to Walmart and Target, they're being instructed not to restock until the previous stock is bought up. So everything new that they're getting in some of these stores is being sent right back to the distributor because the shelves are still filled with fucking wild card football and wild card basketball and Panini draft picks basketball and Panini draft picks football and select baseball and all of this unlicensed bullshit. And I'm so fucking tired of seeing it, and it drives me crazy. But yet, Topps can't figure out how to get their hands on enough Optichrome to make Bowman Chrome and Topps Chrome on time. Why don't you talk to the people at Wildcard and find out what shitbox fucking printers they're using, because they are obviously not having any issues just running the wheels off the presses and putting them in boxes and filling up every fucking Walmart and Target on the face of the earth. But it blows my mind that Topps, I mean, every fucking year, Topps Chrome is a July release. Now it's an October release. So we're like, okay, Topps Chrome October. We got Bowman Chrome coming in September. Not a big deal. A few weeks away, Bowman Chrome. Fucking got some really nice rookie autos this year in Bowman Chrome. Prospect chasing is going to be fun. They put the brakes on that too. That's not coming out in September. It's not coming out in October either. And we're lucky if we get it in November. We're lucky. It's most likely going to be December, maybe even next year. and I can't understand it, man. How are there just hundreds of thousands of fucking bullshit boxes that these other manufacturers, there's Pro Set Football, Leaf Draft, Metal Draft Football.
I've seen the Pro Set Football. Yep, that's true.
They seem to make their fucking dates, but the biggest trading card company in the world now, Fanatics and Topps, can't figure out how to put out fucking Bowman Chrome on time. I just don't understand it, man.
Maybe this segment should be called "What Pissed Off Chris This Week."
It's what really grinds my gears.
Yeah, what grinds my gears? Yeah, we'll steal that from Family Guy. You all know what grinds my gears? I don't have a good excuse for it. I guess so. This is what you heard and what you told me about beforehand was that apparently, whatever card stock they use, whatever, because you can speak to that more than I can, smudged too much and the autos got ruined and they had too high of a redemption count. Which I'm just like, how could you not know at this point? I guess the question I have is, number one, quality control. Don't you test these out before you send them to the guy, number one? But number two, I mean, this isn't like your first rodeo. Like, you just released a product, when did Bowman drop? Like, 2 or 3 months ago? Yeah. Like, what dramatically changed in terms of the card stock you were using from regular Bowman to now? Like, that's what I want to figure out, because I don't understand how that could have possibly, what did you do? Like, what did you change? Did you buy new? Did you go to a new printer? Like, what happened? Because that to me, I don't know how you could, like I said, this isn't the first time you've done this before. That to me feels like something that should have never happened from a quality control standpoint.
Here's my thought. If I'm Topps, if I'm overseeing this, here's my thought.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the consumer and say, here's the situation. A bunch of autographs got fucked up. The base refractors are already made. It's packed out. There's a lot of redemptions in this product. But here's one thing Topps does really well, and that's redemptions. Topps handles redemptions very quickly. Yes. For the most part. I know there are outliers. I know it.
Yeah. So, but within a couple of weeks, you're getting a card. Within a few weeks, you're getting a card for the most part. Yeah.
So here's a crazy idea. Crazy. Let's put the product out on time with, I don't care if it's 95% redemptions. Who cares? Let's not make the redemption expire. And let's put the product out on time. Let's tell everybody the situation and say, by the time this product gets in your hands, we will have the majority of these cards in-house. So as soon as you redeem them, they will be on their way to you within 1 week. And I think for the most part, as long as the redemptions didn't expire, people would have been like, I'll take Bowman Chrome on time every fucking day of the week, even on Sunday, then have to wait another month to have this happen. Because it'd be different if we're already, ripping Topps Chrome right now. But we're not. So now we got to sit here and wait for Mosaic Draft Picks fucking football and a bunch of other wild card products that are probably in Leaf products that are going to come out from now to then. So why not capitalize on this lull and fucking put the product out on time? The people the problems that people have with redemptions are two things: how fast they get them and that they expire. It's not necessarily pulling a redemption or not. It's what happened. I want to put this box away for a few years. I can't do that because J-Rod's a redemption and he expires in 2 years. So let's not put an expiration date on the redemptions. Let's handle the redemptions. Let's tell people what's going on. And I would gather to say people are going to be pretty understanding about it. But no, let's scrap everything and start over. And let's put out Bowman fucking Chrome in 2023, which I guarantee you is going to happen. Makes no sense.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, I agree with you. I think that makes it. You're right, because I think that is more. It's fair. Like you said, my only complaint with redemptions really is, well, the speed you get. Like you said, the two things: the speed you get them at, and if they expire on you. So if you, like you said, if they just did this as a one-off, like, okay, these redemptions are just not going to expire, or we'll give you like 15 years to redeem them, 10 years, 10 to 15 years, if you still want to put a timeline on it, make it 10 years or 15 or something stupid like that, like a longer than the standard 2 years that you give people. I would be fine with that. I think everyone would be fine with it.
Of
Everyone would be
course
like,
they
sure,
would.
yeah, I'll take that. Because like you said, they're good at it. So once they get it in, I mean, like you're right, by the time it hits the shelves or whatever, by the time it hits the shelves, they're probably going to have a decent number of them in anyway,
Yep.
or within that month or so. Like people would much rather have their products, or would much rather say, okay, I got 5 redemptions, I'll just send them in now, and then they just turn them around quickly. So yeah,
Yep.
no, you're 100% correct. So I don't, like I
But
said, a
here,
lot of these things that were happening, I was hoping Topps would clean it up, but we'll see. Or Fanatics, but we'll see.
but here's the other thing, man. And this is the entitlement of these manufacturers drive me fucking crazy. The lack of communication is so disrespectful to the consumer. It's like, okay, I understand that you have a line of breakers and LCSs with endless checkbooks that are willing to buy this product regardless when it comes out. But there's the normal person that has a small allocated budget for cards is expecting Bowman Chrome to drop in September, and this guy's been saving his $200 or $300 to buy a hobby box in September of Bowman Chrome. And the fact that you don't even have the decency to put a fucking tweet out or, God forbid, go on social media and say, hey, here's the situation. It's looking like this product probably isn't going to drop until January of next year. We're really sorry, but this is the reality of the situation. Or November of this year. Then that guy and those multiple people that say, hey, I got this card budget that I've been saving for Bowman Chrome. I know it's not going to come out now and for another few months down the line. So let me go ahead and spend that money elsewhere. But they have zero respect for the consumer, and they just don't say a word about it. We have to find out about what's going on by rumors and fucking blowout updated release calendar updates that they do. And it's just bullshit.
Yeah.
They need to fucking get their shit together. And I hope Fanatics, when they're 100% taken over, I hope they do something about this. Because what's so hard, bro, I work in a business where you have to turn shit in days. And we miss turn times all the time. We wouldn't be around if we just decided not to call our customers and be like, hey, you know that fucking order that you put in last week that we told you were going to have Friday? You're going to have it Tuesday because we had some machine problems or whatever. You'll have it Tuesday. What if I decided just to be like, nah, they'll figure it out. Maybe they'll hear about it through their vendor is when they're going to get their job. What other business can you get away with that in? Honestly.
None. You really can't. No,
None.
that's another problem I have with
Zero.
Topps too.
It's unacceptable,
problem,
man. It's unacceptable.
I agree. That I agree with. They do need to. You need to let your customers know. That's not fair. Because, like you said, if someone's like we talked about it with like Draft is my favorite product all year, and I always try to save up for it. But it's frustrating to find out about it from people like secondhand. Like you should find out from the source. If Topps is delaying it, it shouldn't just be like a letter that goes out to Blowout. It should be them saying, "Hey guys, we're really sorry to all of our valued customers. This is," or even say our estimated release date was December 15th. We have to adjust it to December 30th. We apologize for the delay, but we're just letting you know this so that you don't. Because like I mean now now I hate to say this, but now when stuff is on time, I'm more surprised, and that shouldn't be the case. Like I shouldn't be surprised when stuff actually drops from them on time. And honestly, I can't remember the last time something actually did drop from them on time. To be honest,
anybody who's been around long enough, especially with Bowman, Bowman rarely releases on the date that they originally say. It's always pushed a week or two back.
Right.
So people kind of expect that, but bro, have the common courtesy of fucking telling your customers, man.
Yep.
I guarantee you, wild card, the 3 people on the fucking planet that are waiting for their next shipbox release, I guarantee you, if they were going to be late, I bet you Wildcard would put out and say, hey, you know this pile of shit that you've been waiting for? You're going to have to wait 2 more weeks for it. I'm sorry.
Well, I was about to say, if Wildcard was ever late, they probably would lose all their customers. But that being said, Wildcard, the way you described it kind of reminds me of a quick digression. Remember Press Pass? They used to make cards.
I think it's the
same. You remember
people,
Press Pass cards? Is it? Oh my
God!
For Sage, they would do Sage and Press Pass. Oh my God, they were so. Like when I was a kid, I'm excited about the new because their one claim to fame was that they would get everything first. Like they were the first to get their product out. Then you open it up and you're like, well, wait a minute, where are all the logos? Like where are the jerseys? Like what the hell happened? And you're just looking at this blotted out. It's yeah. I didn't realize Wild Card was the same thing. The only, like I said,
I know they were a company back in the day, and
yeah,
their claim to fame was some redemption that they had. I forget what player it was, but it was football. I don't know. Look, you're gonna get me started again. I'm gonna get all aggravated.
No, it's okay. I don't want your blood pressure to get elevated.
Yeah,
but
I
still there's like nothing.
So.
We are, yeah. We'll wrap up. So as I say, there's still nothing near me. But anything else you got coming up you want to plug, or is that it for good for tonight?
I'm excited. I have a case. They're really hard to find. They're really hard to come by. I have a case of 2020 Select football blasters.
I saw that you posted. Yeah,
that we're going to be probably ripping this week on retail breaks. So,
okay.
For anybody who doesn't know the history of Select and retail breaks, we hit the Joe Burrow Gold Shimmer auto at a 10 an hour after they won the AFC Championship game and we're heading to the Super Bowl at a retail, by the way, gold auto at a retail. So it was pretty cool. So we're going to do that hopefully within the next couple days. And we're going to be doing some Bowman Sapphire, some more Bowman Mega Boxes. A lot of.
Oh, you got Sapphire in too.
Yeah, man. Your favorite.
Nice. I know. I love Sapphire. No. It's fun. I was just saying that to fuck with people because everyone gets so like everyone gets like a card boner from Sapphire. So I just like being the contrarian.
It's the best, man.
I like my Mega Autos. I think they look cool.
I want to hit a Ellie auto out of Sapphire for somebody.
Oh my god, that would be nuts. People are going crazy for Ellie right now. He's got a lot.
That's the one thing. That's the one trickle down that might. 2022 Bowman is so loaded, and the prices have dropped significantly, and they've stayed low. And I think with Bowman Chrome being, pushed back probably indefinitely, we'll never fucking know. But being pushed back, that might pump up 2022 Bowman a little bit more because it's the only Bowman product we're going to have probably for this calendar year.
Yeah, I haven't had the best luck with Bowman 2020, so 2022 rather.
All right, man. You ready? Let's knock this out.
Let's wrap it up. Yep.
We'll see you next week. Talking shit. More wild card exclusives coming at you.
Thanks for joining us, guys. Yep. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us again.